Hollywood life may look pretty glamorous, but it is often the opposite of that. In fact, there have been many actors and actresses who have gone through hell and back, struggling with many issues. Among these issues, a very common one is substance abuse and addictions. Today, we're going to be taking a look at 8 stars who overcame addictions before becoming super famous. So, without any further ado, let's dive right in. Starting with Gary Oldman at number 8. Star of the Dark Knight films, Bram Stoker's Dracula, and the Harry Potter films, Gary Oldman has battled alcoholism since the 1990s. Many famous people, including Oldman, struggle with substance abuse because of both internal and external factors. Oldman has a crisis of mobility, as described by Dr. David Wellish, a UCLA professor of psychiatry, because of his fame. For Oldman, a mobility problem comes up when professional success takes you out of one world and into another. A crisis of mobility may happen to anybody, whether it's a professional or personal event, or even a traumatic occurrence that forces them to uproot their whole lives and start over in a new place. According to Psychology Today, persons who feel uprooted and displaced by their sudden celebrity sometimes turn to drugs or alcohol as a comforting form of nostalgic access. This might apply to Oldman. How, however, did Oldman become sober? Oldman undertook a 5-week rehabilitation program in 1995. He engaged in sobriety help and completed the steps. According to an interview in Psychology Today, he has stayed clean through a combination of regular AA meetings and a stability daily schedule. His kids, relatives, pals, and colleagues are all people he looks to for responsibility. Moving on to number 7, Mary J. Blige. Mary J. Blige is a gifted artist, but she has struggled with addiction because of past traumas. Mary's drug addiction began when she was a teenager and escalated along with her stardom. To cope with the trauma she experienced as a kid, she began drinking and using drugs. She was only 5 years old when she first experienced sexual abuse, and it has been pretty traumatic for her. She has always been honest, yet even among her own family, there are secrets she won't reveal. In fact, it was at age 33 that she told her mother about being sexually abused as a child. Blige's inability to handle the stresses of adolescence was exacerbated by the hardships of growing up in the impoverished Slowboom housing projects in Yonkers, New York. Blige said the 2008 death of respected artist Whitney Houston served as a wake-up call, since it showed her how difficult it was to get help in such a climate. She has subsequently dealt with her trauma and broken free of her dependency on harmful coping techniques with the aid of her supportive spouse, Kendu Isaacs. Moving on to number 6, Courtney Love. When she was 16, the rock star began doing narcotics. A few times she tried heroin, but then she depended on the barbiturate Seconal and the drug cocaine. Friend Jennifer Finch, who is now sober, offered her some heroin during a party at Charlie Sheen's Malibu residence, and she gave it another go. She developed an addiction to the powerful opiate quickly and struggled with it throughout her pregnancy. Love overcame her drug addiction after agreeing with The People vs. Larry Flint, telling director Milos Forman that she wouldn't use anything during production. She hasn't used drugs or alcohol since 1996 and was nominated for a Golden Globe for her performance in the film. We love to see a queen thriving and living her best life after being through so much. You deserve all the accolades in the world, girl. Not to forget, at number 5, Jamie Lee Curtis. Jamie Lee Curtis was in a bad spot in the late 90s. After a regular cosmetic surgery treatment many years ago, she became hooked on opiate painkillers as a means of coping with the stresses of life. The actress, who was then in her 40s, kept her addiction secret from everyone, despite the fact that it tormented her constantly. Over the course of 10 years, Curtis developed a severe opiate addiction that led her to steal pills from her sister. In late 1998, a friend of the family spotted Curtis using, but she still wasn't ready to confront her addiction. In 1999, after reading a piece in Esquire on Vicodin addiction, the Halloween actress admitted she needed treatment. She admitted her addiction to her loved ones and began going to AA sessions. She has been sober for the last 21 years. Following up at number 4, Ben Affleck. Starting with his family background and treatment trips, Ben Affleck has been transparent about his sobriety throughout his career. His parents split up when he was 12 years old, long before he became a Hollywood star in the early 90s for his role in Dazed and Confused. Affleck said in 2012 on The View that he had no idea his father was an alcoholic growing up, but that he remembered his father drinking heavily, and that's exactly where it began for him. Affleck's decision to quit drinking came in 1997 when he and his buddy Matt Damon starred together in Good Will Hunting. The Pearl Harbor star finally got sober and entered rehab in 2001. Since that, he has completed many stints in rehabilitation, most recently in 2017 and 2018. While he saw alcoholism in his family, The Deepwater actor said his father didn't actually get clean until he was 19. It took me a long time to fundamentally, deeply, without a hint of doubt, admit to myself that I am an alcoholic. The next drink will not be different, he said in February 2020. In October 2019, only 2 months after the runner-producer had celebrated 1 year of sobriety, he had another setback. There are even pictures of a drunken Affleck exiting a Halloween party. But things have been fortunately all good ever since then. Up next at number 3, Bradley Cooper. Bradley Cooper's appearance in The Hangover and A Star is Born have made him a household name. Cooper's alcoholism became increasingly worse way before he was famous. Cooper began his sobriety journey in 2004, and he's remained clean ever since. He has stayed clean while playing characters with addiction issues on screen. He said, "Anytime you're trying to tell the truth, you need to go places and use things that have happened to you." Cooper is notoriously private about his history with alcoholism, although he has spoken about it a few times in interviews. Not to forget, at number 2, Drew Barrymore. Drew Barrymore made headlines in 1989 when she said she was an addict and checked herself into recovery after a suicide attempt at the age of 13. She began going out with her mother's friends and drinking at the age of 9. Joined the LA club scene at the age of 11, and by the time she was 12, she was taking marijuana and cocaine regularly and was an addict. Her emotional and mental health suffered due to the substance addiction that had become routine in her life. At 14, on a doctor's advice, she divorced her parents and went out on her own, having been considered an adult. By starting her own production business and launching her own talk show, Barrymore has reclaimed her independence and taken the reins of her own life. She has 2 children and is dedicated to improving herself constantly. We love that she's finally got the love she deserved. Finally, at number 1, Robert Downey Jr. Hollywood actor Robert Downey Jr. also happens to be a genuine lifesaver. He overcame his long-term drug and alcohol abuse to become one of the Avengers heroes in the movies. In his book, The New Breed, published in 1988, Downey Jr. claimed that drugs like marijuana and cocaine were constantly around him. It was like him trying to tell him he loved his kid, and the only manner he knew how, when he and his dad would use drugs together. Early on in his life, Downey Jr. explored the effects of marijuana, alcohol, and other narcotics. In 1995, Downey Jr. fell into a revolving door pattern of recovery, filming, and relapse. Sean Penn, a friend and fellow actor, transported Robert Downey Jr. to a rehabilitation institution, but Downey Jr. escaped a few days later. Downey Jr. was arrested many times in 1996 for offenses including speeding, DUI, drug possession, and gun possession. At that time, a neighbor discovered him unresponsive and unconscious. He was sent to USC Medical Center, where he required resuscitation. He was supposed to start a 24-hour drug recovery program the next day, but he managed to get away and find a ride back home. In only 4 hours, he was apprehended by law enforcement and sentenced to 9 days in prison. Downey Jr. had a tumultuous legal and incarceration history between the years 1997 and 2003. In 2003, Downey Jr. was able to stay sober and return to work thanks to the support of friends like Mel Gibson and his future wife, Susan Levin. And ever since then, the man has been on a remarkable journey of growth and success. Love to see it. That's a wrap for this video. So what did you think of the journey of all these celebrities? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.